Well, hello Algebra 2 people. We are going to obviously not have class in person today. We're going to deal with the word problems through 3 different videos that you're going to look at. This is kind of the culmination of what we've been doing in the last 2 units, what we can use quadratic equations for, and what we can use quadratic functions for, the parabolas. There are 4 different types of word problems we're going to look at. I'm going to make 1 video for each of the types. We're going to deal with 3 of them today, and we'll save probably the toughest type, but also I think the most interesting and useful type for tomorrow. First type of problem we're going to deal with are number problems. For our first example, we're asked to find 2 consecutive positive integers whose product is 306. Should have added into the directions that we're going to do this by using a quadratic equation rather than just guessing and checking. We're just no guessing and checking with these things. We're going to do these things with some equations. First of all, consecutive positive integers, numbers like 5 and 6. Whoops, you can't see that. Numbers like 5 and 6, 21, 22, things like that. If our first integer is x, the next consecutive integer would have to be x plus 1. If your first number is 5, the next number is 5 plus 1, 6. If your first number is 21, your next number is 21 plus 1, 22. So this problem will involve a setup sort of like this. But later on, we're going to take a look at problems that talk about consecutive even integers or consecutive odd integers. And I want to just take care of all that setup right now. For consecutive even integers, for example, we might have things like 32 and 34, for example. If that's what's going on, our first number is going to be x. What would your second number be if we're dealing with consecutive even integers? How would you get to the next even number? What's the formula for it? Looks like to get to my next even number I have to add 2, so my second number is going to be x plus 2. Have a good weekend, Mr. Alberts. No, I'm recording. Consecutive odd integers. For example, numbers like 31, whoops, that's the 31, and 33. The first number is x. What would the second number be there? I think it's actually going to be the same as the even integers, because I think all you have to do is add 2 to get to the next number. We're going to make it x and x plus 2. We're going to need to use these ideas throughout our number problems. In this first example, we're asked for 2 consecutive positive integers whose product is 306. Well, my first number is going to be x, and my second number, because I'm dealing with consecutive integers here, my second number is going to be x plus 1. We're told that the product of these 2 integers is 306, so I'm going to say x times x plus 1 equals 306. And I'm starting to create a quadratic equation. Actually, I have created a quadratic equation, just not in a great form. To be able to make some sense out of this, I'm going to go and convert this thing to standard form. I'm going to say x squared plus x equals 306. I'm going to go and make it equal 0. Minus 306. Minus 306, we're going to get x squared plus x minus 306 equals 0. And I think because this number is pretty big, I'm just going to go and try to solve this with the quadratic formula. Using our quadratic formula, we're going to get x equals negative b, negative 1, plus or minus the square root of b squared, 1 squared, minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a, all over 2 times 1. This is going to equal negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 Let's see here, those double negatives are going to turn it into a plus. Let's go to the calculator and figure out what this is. 4 times 1 times 306, thinking 1,224 over 2. So I'm going to get x equals negative 1 plus or minus square root of 1,225 over 2. Before we try simplifying this root, let's see if it already is a perfect square. Let's see if we can just take the square root of that number. And actually, go to the calculator. What is the square root of 1,225? I think that should give you 35. Negative 1 plus or minus 35 over 2. I'm going to go and do those two problems now. I'm going to do negative 1 plus 34. Negative 1 plus 35, rather. That's 34 over 2. And I'm going to do negative 1 minus 35. That's negative 36 over 2. Which means x equals 17 or negative 18. Now, I need to think about what I was looking for here. X stood for my first number. I'm looking for two consecutive positive integers whose product is 306, so these are both options for my first number. Actually, no, they're not both options for my first number because I told you we need positive integers, so negative 18 is no good. My first number is going to be 17. How do we find the second number? Well, I've got this formula over here that says my second number has to be x plus 1, 17 plus 1, or 18. After all this, I found that my two numbers are 17 and 18. And this is the work that I need to see. I need to see you creating a quadratic equation, solving, probably with the quadratic formula. You're going to get two different numbers. Those are options for your first number. I told you I want positive numbers, so we can't have a negative first number. We're going to skip that. We're going to say our first number is 17. How do you get the second number? You add 1 to that. I'm going to make the video pause if you need to take a moment to get any of this written down. Let's take a look at the next one. Here I'm asking for two consecutive positive odd integers whose product is 483. I'm going to make my first number x. If we're dealing with consecutive positive odd integers, what are we going to say the second number is? I think it's going to be x plus 2. Remember, if we have things like 31 and 33, those are consecutive positive odd integers. By the way, consecutive, hopefully you know that word. If not, just, I guess, the next number, an odd number, and then the next odd number. You got to add 2 to get to the next consecutive odd number, so x and x plus 2. This is going to give us the equation. Actually, I think you can go make the equation. Go make the equation. I think it should be x times x plus 2 equals 483. I'd like you now to go convert that to standard form, distribute, make it equal 0, then go use the quadratic formula and tell me the two answers you get for what x equals. Then we'll kind of process that and figure out what the solution is. Go solve and tell me the two values you get for x. One will be positive, one will be negative. Okay, I'm going to get x squared plus 2x equals 483. Minus 483 minus 483. I'm getting x squared plus 2x minus 483 equals 0. I'm going to go and use my quadratic formula. X equals negative b, so negative 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. This gives me negative 2 plus or minus square root of 4. Those double negatives are going to turn this into a plus 1,932 over 2. Negative 2 plus or minus square root of 1,936 over 2. Again, I'm going to try to take the square root, and it should be a good number, otherwise I'm not going to get integers for my answer. Negative 2 plus or minus 44 over 2. Do the addition, you'll get 42 over 2. Do the subtraction, you'll get negative 46 over 2. So I'm thinking 21 and negative 23 for the x values. I wanted consecutive positive odd integers, so I don't care about 23. I just care about 21. My first number is 21. My second number is going to be 21 plus 2, or just go to the next consecutive odd number, 23. The two numbers are 21 and 23. There's one more number problem example in the packet, but I think we're going to skip over that. The ones you're going to see in the homework, in the review packet, and on the test will be like either the first one with consecutive integers, or the second one with consecutive odd or even integers.